Oh, good evening. I'm an addict named Tony. Hey, thanks, Sarah, for sharing your experience, strength, and hope. It was awesome. I was just telling her it takes a lot to come up here and share who you are and share your experience. So hopefully the message of recovery come. I'm glad to be here. Thanks, Roger, for asking me to come out and speak. I learned some about your message, and when you was having babies, I was getting clean. So my clean date, September 17, 1991, and I haven't found a way to use since that time. Y'all can give a clap. That's a long time. Yeah. But what I want to do is give a special shout out to my man back there, Jonathan, with 5 days. Yeah. And the reason why I want to do that, before you get 32 years, you got to have 1 day. You got to have 5 days. So hopefully you hear something today, that one day you be standing in a position like here, sharing your experience, strength, and hope, helping another addict with 5 days. That is the message of Narcotics Anonymous. So, I was telling her about taking notes. I don't have any notes. And I was telling her the reading out of the book, sometimes I need new glasses because I didn't got old. When I got clean, I was 28. I'm 61 now. So my eyes are gone bad. So I'm just going to try to wing this and just let you know what my experience has been, what it was like since I've been here, and what it's like now. I think it's probably going to be just like most of us. I lived to use and used to live. That's what it was. I got here, I'm not going to get into a drug log because I don't want us to be distracted about our drug stories. But I will tell you, I lived to use and used to live. And so when I got here, I can tell you what my last using day was like. I got clean on the East Coast. So there's two things that happened. So if you were like me, I was using crack. I was drinking Mad Dog 2020. I was doing heroin. I was doing all kind of shit. I was like sick, right? And I remember I was in this park, right? And I'm homeless. And I always tell this story. It's 2 stories I tell about my last thing that I remember that sort of got me and inspired me to get clean. Sitting in this park, and I'm homeless, and I'm looking out over the Chesapeake Bay. And I'm saying, man, part of me wanted to die, but I was a coward. I didn't want to kill myself, so I used to use a lot of drugs, hoping that one day I wouldn't wake up. But in this particular morning, all I could hear is the birds. And what the birds was telling me, I was going to have to find another way to use. And that was going to be, I don't know if you were like me, it was like that was a hustle. Because I didn't have money, I didn't have anything. And I remember this white lady, she was sitting over on the bench. And I'm like, man, I'm smelling like shit. I'm like, if I could get under the bench, I would get under the bench, just not for people to see me. She looks over and she says, hey, good morning. I'm like, what the fuck is she saying good morning for? I don't see nothing good about it, but it's a beautiful day, right? And she says, you know what? I think you're going to be somebody. She said, hey, I'm going to give you $5. Go get you something to eat. I'm like, what the fuck who is she talking? I was thinking she was talking to someone else, but I took the $5. I went down to McDonald's, right? I go to McDonald's, and I'm sitting in McDonald's, and you could buy a coffee. So I'm sitting in McDonald's, I buy a coffee, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm thinking. I kept thinking, what the fuck is she talking about? I'm going to be somebody. I'm like, I don't have shit. Nothing. I'm zero. And then I felt this. I ended up finding a ride back to my mother in North Carolina. And this dude I knew, he has some shit. So we walk down, we get high, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, man, I'm in this house. And the house don't have any lights. It's nothing. It's just it's a dope house, right? And this woman who's running the dope house, she has kids. And all I remember was there was these 2 kids who walked into the room. And the kids got poop all in the diaper and everything. And the kid is crying. The kid's wanting some food and just crying. And the mother's saying, you know what? Go sit your ass down. It's like chaos in this thing. And I'm like still getting high. And this moment of clarity came like, this ain't me. Like, this is not me. Like, I'm looking, there's something about this is not me, right? I kept saying this to myself, right? And I remember leaving and me and this guy walking down the street. And I'm telling him, man, I can't do this shit anymore. I was like, I can't do it. I'm like, done, man. He's like, no, man, all you gotta do is start smoking that crack, man. And all we do is like drink and smoke weed and shit. I said, man, I can't do none of it, man. I'm like, done. See, because I had already been to treatment. I had been to like, I don't know how many detox. I had done all that stuff. And it was like that moment, it's like, man, I can't do nothing. And I remember going back to my mom's house because I had stole some shit from her too, right? And I go back to my mom's house and my mom had this look. And all she did was shook her head. She ain't say nothing. She just shook her head. And I felt so much shame. And the next morning, I'm laying in the bed at my mom's house. And I'm under the cover, man. And like, I hear the birds again. And they're tweaking. And they're singing louder than I ever heard before. And I'm like, man, I'm pulling the cover, and I was like, man, I don't want to get out because I know it's daylight, man. And I felt like a hustle was going to come. And I get up, man, and I go to the telephone. And then I look at it back then. This is old school now. Just don't yell at me. I go to the phone book, and I look in, and then back in the yellow pages, they had a help thing. And I go in. And they said they had this thing, you know. They said you need help for mental health or drugs, and here's a hotline. Call the freaking line. And the woman said, "What do you need help for?" I said, "Listen, all I know, I need help." She's like, "For what?" And I'm just like, "I just need help for everything." And then she say, "Well, do you have insurance?" So I had a job just like a couple months before, like 3 months before. And I gave her a fake card because I gave people fake shit all the time. Like, I don't give her a fake card. Maybe they don't check and I just show up and then they ain't gonna kick me out. This is my thinking. So I give her the card. Then later on, someone calls me back. It's a treatment center. And then she says, listen, we need to get more information for you. What do you need help for? And I said, look, I don't know what I have, but I need this. I got drugs. I'm crazy. All kind of shit, man. I got a money management problem. I got like everything. I'm telling her everything, right? So she said, okay, well, listen, give me your address and we'll send someone. And it's so funny because at the same time, I told you I had a job, right? And I had like forwarded all my mail to my mom. And y'all know what happened on this day they were sending somebody to pick me up? There was a check in the mail. There was a last check that I didn't know anything about for a few hours. I got that check. What do y'all think I started doing? Negotiating. I'm gonna negotiate another day. No, don't come pick me up now. I gotta get some clothes. I gotta get all this other stuff, right? I gotta go cash my check. So I asked them, they said, no, don't worry about it. So then they said, and then my mom said, I'm not giving you this check because all you're gonna do is go blow it. And you owe me money anyway, you stole my shit, right? And I'm like, Mom, are you serious? You gonna send me to treatment with nothing? She said, yep, right? So what happened was this guy shows up, man, and it's a white dude, man. And why was that, man? It was all black people. It was a white dude and he's crippled, right? And I thought he was selling shit. I thought this guy was selling stuff. And he comes and he knocks on the door. I said, Mom, somebody's selling something. And this guy, his name was JJ. And he says, no, I'm not selling it. I'm here to pick up Anthony Jordan. I'm taking him to treatment. Like, what the fuck? Right? And I was like I was nervous, right? Like, this is a setup, man. Like, what's happening, right? But the guy, right, what he did was I go outside and I tell him, man, look, I need to go buy some underwear. I'm telling him all this stuff. He said, don't worry about it. Okay, and it's something, I know Maggie probably heard this before. He pulls out a big wad of money and says, don't worry about anything. I'm like, damn, it's wads, right? And I'm like, man. But remember, I told you I was sick, man. I was sick and tired, right? So the guy, he goes, I get in the car. And I'm looking at this water money. He says, man, do you need anything? You want something to drink? You want some shit? I say, what? I stopped to the store, and he says, man, get whatever you want to drink, because I know you probably need it. And so, of course, this guy got a big wad of money. I go buy something I ain't never drank before, the most expensive shit in there, right? And I think it was like a 6-pack of Heineken. I go and I don't get one, I get 6, right? And then there's a guy around the corner at the corner store. I ended up buying some drugs too. He said, oh yeah, just go smoke it and shit. Don't smoke it in my car. And then he talks to me, because it's an hour away from the tree. He talked to me about AA the whole way. And he tells me, he said, listen at this, man. This is the last day that you don't have to use. This can be your last day. And he tells me his story. He talked to me, he's telling me the story. But I'm high as shit, right? I'm like, yeah, cool shit. You know, yeah, that's some really cool shit. You know what I mean? And at this time, I'm thinking about, man, this guy got money. I just got some drugs and shit. Like, man, I could just take this car and shit. But I'm like, man, this guy. But I'm saying, I had a conscious thought. I was like, man, this guy's crippled. I can't do that to him. Right? He tells me he has bad arthritis and everything. But anyway, so he takes me to the treatment center. And what I found out later, you have to be loaded in order to get into treatment, right? And so I was loaded. I was like, man, I don't even know what I blew on the breathalyzer, but I was like fucked up with everything, right? So I get to the treatment center, man. I'm laying in detox, man. I wake up, man, and there's no birds, man. And I just see, and then I'm like, man, how did I end up here? And I remember thinking, like, I started getting well, man. I remember, man, when I was in treatment, my first experience with, they had a refrigerator, man. It was full of food, man. It had orange juice and shit. It had like everything, man. I was like hitting it out, because I'm saying, when I was using it, I didn't eat. I didn't do anything. I used to live and live to use. I didn't do anything, man. I think at that time, man, I know y'all see me now, but I probably weighed like 120. Like I was like small, like I had a wife beater shirt on, man, like I was like tough. Man, you probably could have pushed me over. There was nothing, there's everything about my addiction was fake, right? Like, one of the things that I always look back, and when I was in treatment, what I learned, I was a dude that always, I was afraid of everything. And one of the things about me, why I started using gave me this belief that I could be anything. I remember when I was in grade school, man, I remember planes flying over. I was afraid of the world around me. I was afraid of everything. If a girl said something to me and looked at me, I just about pissed my pants. I was afraid. If the teacher called on me, I didn't say anything. I didn't want to get anything wrong. I was living this life like, I can't say anything, because if I say the wrong thing, what if she doesn't go? Everything was like, I was like walking fear, right? But one of the things about when I got high, that shit was gone. I was Mr. Hero. I could talk to girls and be like, I don't give a damn if you don't say shit. I could like raise my hand in class and shit and say the craziest shit and be like cool with it, right? So I had by the time I got to recovery, I was a walking lie. I had this belief about myself that I was all of this. And then they took the drugs, and then I was left with what? Nothing. The same fearful guy, right? And I remember when I got out of treatment, and I remember when I came to NA, this is the shit they used to say. Of course you think you still got it, because when you ain't got the drugs, I used to go from meetings to meetings. Still the fearful guy who feels inadequate and insecure all the time, right? I used to go to meetings from one meeting to another, and get the most profound guy with the most amount of times. Listen what they have to say. Take that thing in and go to another meeting and share the same thing, right? And you know what they would do? They would just clap. They'd be like, keep coming back. And I said, man, that was some profound shit, right? And I remember they gave me a sponsor. I was like, I don't even like him. Like, why y'all giving me him? Just don't worry about it. You need one, right? And so there was this thing about this lie about myself, and I remember this guy telling me, he said, man, you can't give away what you don't have. And what you don't have is time. You don't have any experience. All you have is where you just came from. Let us help you. Yeah, I remember they used to say this thing, let us love you until you can love yourself. I was like, that was the craziest shit. I was like, you gonna love me until I can love myself. I love myself. I'm clean. I used to walk around I was clean, man. I was the happiest. I don't know if y'all, do they say this now? I don't know if they say the pink cloud. I was riding a pink cloud for a long time. right? Because I felt like, oh man, I'm not doing drugs. I remember when I got to 30 days, man, when I picked up my 30 days, I used to watch people pick up key tags. I was like, they lying their ass off, man. Somebody's smoking some weed in this damn thing. And I remember going around and I would like, kind of like sneak little conversations like, dude, y'all ain't smoking weed or nothing? It's like, no, we ain't doing nothing. I was like, okay, man, okay, so then I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna hang out with these dudes just picking up like these 90 days. Like the years, I couldn't even get to the years. I mean, just 30 days was profound for me. And then I started hanging out with other people with 30 days because I was afraid against, you remember I told you? I was afraid of everything. I was afraid to be around people with time. If you had about 6 months, I probably won't want to hang out with you. You know what? I used to like hang out with the other newcomers because we be talking that crazy shit from the streets, man. Like we had some drug logs like no tomorrow. We'd be talking about all the crazy shit we did. But when we would go around the people with time, we wouldn't even say this shit. So I hung out with a lot of people early on because that's what we did, right? And then my sponsor used to say, yo, man, you need to stick with the winners. I said, shit, they winning. They getting up, picking up key tags and shit. Like all of us winning, right? Like we winning. And then one of the things my sponsor told me, he says, listen, man, this fellowship is about an active change in your mind and your behaviors. And he said, man, you got to start working some steps because the steps would give you a purpose and a foundation to change, right? And he says the 12 tradition would teach you how to work and live with others. And I'm like, man, I just came here to get clean. I was like, dude, that's too deep for me, man. I just want to be clean. He says, everybody come here want to be clean. He said, but I want to help you stay clean. There's a difference in getting clean, but you got to have the right tools to stay clean. That's what he told me. And then let me tell you, I went back to my room because I was standing in the auction house. I was pissed off every day, man. Every time my sponsor would tell me some shit, I was like pissed off, but I would think about it. And a lot of y'all probably had this experience. Somebody in their fellowship tell you some shit and you be like, yeah, I hate them. But then you go back in the room and you can't go to sleep because you pissed off and you're thinking about it. Just know it's working. It's working. Don't worry about it. We all went through it. And I remember after a while, like when I got about 6 months, I had some people in my life. And before I say this, I went to the World Convention and it was in DC, and I got clean in the Tidewater area of Virginia. And some of the people, my predecessors, was at the World Convention. Some people, man, like when I'm telling you this story, they used to come and pick me up because I ain't have a car. And then they'd be like, they used to tell me, and they used to say, Tony, Tony, why do you always think everything applies to everyone else except you? Why do you think you're so unique, right? They used to always tell me this. And I was like, well, everybody's not the same. But why are you a terminal unique addict? Right? Like, why do you think, because, they had this whole thing about relationship. Don't get in a relationship for your first 90 days, right? I don't know if they still do that shit. Of course, when they told me that, I ain't do it. I got this chick, and I was in a crack house, picking up out the crack house. I met her in the rooms at a convention. I'm like 90 days clean. I'm picking up out the crack house. Her lips is burnt from the pipe and everything. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, and I'm telling her, 90 days clean, that's all you gotta do. Go to meetings, get a sponsor and all this other shit. And she's like, okay. And then I'll take her to a meeting about, yeah, she's on track again. 2 weeks later, she back in the crack house calling me up. Hey, dude, I owe the dope man like $20 and shit, like 40, and I'm over here paying $40. I ain't have shit. I didn't have nothing. And I'm like, and then they said, oh, okay, you still want to be in that relationship? This is why we tell you, you got to learn you got to know yourself. You got to learn who you are, right? And so then I got out of the relationship, and then I stayed out of the relationship for about 18 months after that. And then I started working the steps. And I found that the steps was the guide to who I could be and what I wanted to be. And I didn't know anything about forgiveness. I didn't know anything about, how do you sort of like be honest. I came in lying a lot, right? Like I didn't know anything. I thought if you was honest, man, there was consequences to that. Like if I told the truth, the real truth, something will really happen. Like lying didn't. right? Like I thought like somehow truth was somehow going to do something to me. But if I lied, I was going to find my way out of it. Only thing lies ever did to me was further my addiction and further my prolonging for bad stuff that happened to me. Ever since I've been clean, even though I did not, even though when I told the truth, I might have some consequences, it never made my situation worse. And what I want to say, because I got 10 minutes, and it's so funny because I felt like I've been up here 5 minutes, but thank you, Roger. And one of the things I do want to say about recovery, and we was talking about family, when I came in recovery, I had a child when I was 18 years old. I didn't have any relationship until about 10 years ago. And Maggie's in my home group, and she can tell you about it. And I shared about this. And it was very painful for me, because I was one of those fathers who just always would show up and just give money and leave. And I have a son now, he's 24, a younger son, and I have an adopted daughter. But I didn't spend any time with my older son. And one day his wife at the time reached out to me. She was dying of cancer. And this was about like 10 years ago. And she called me up and she said, listen, he needs a relationship with you, and I'm dying, and I need for you to have that. And then she connected us. And what he said to me, he goes, I watched you on Facebook with your other son, and you did for him what you never done for me. I don't even know if I want to have a relationship with you. And that was the most painful thing that I ever heard. But like the fellowship has told me, you come in the rooms and share in these rooms, somebody else has been through it. And I got with some people who have been through it, and I just kept reaching out. Me and him right today, and my grandkids are like this. Like I'm talking about, it's like we worked through all this stuff. We worked through it, and I went, I think, probably about like 6 or 7 months before she passed away, I went to Brooklyn, New York, and I met her for the first time, and my son and my grandkids, and we hung out. And it was rocky. It was rough. And I did hear some painful stuff. But the day we talk every weekend. I go and visit. My granddaughter's just like me, and we share. She calls me up and says, Pops, you're the best Pops ever, because you're different from my dad. He doesn't talk like you. He's just like, he's like, I said, look, there's a difference between grandparents and Pops. I ain't gotta live with you, so I don't give it to you straight, right? And so we're cool, right? And the other thing, what I want to tell you, if you're new, Jonathan, you have 5 days, and congratulations to you. I forgot what your name was for your year. That's some time. So just keep coming back. And whoever may be here, who may be struggling and don't think NA is right for you, you're in the right place. If you don't think this fellowship and you like, I don't like that these people, they come in the room and just share about what the hell is going on. I don't get no excitement from this shit. You're in the right place. When they used to say, listen at this, don't quit 5 minutes before the miracle happens. Don't give up. Don't wait 5 years. Give yourself 5 years and see where you are at. You can always be refunded the stuff you had before you got here. This is a day at a time program. If you like where you at, you can always go back, but try this for a year and see what happened. See if you're in a better place. See if you're around different people. See if you got different things. Give yourself a break. That's what they say in the basic text. Give yourself a break. Right? Free. This fellowship doesn't offer us a car. It doesn't offer us a good job, new friends. It offers us freedom from active addiction, and everything after that, you get to decide what that is. And many people have decided to do many things with that freedom. They become lawyers, doctors, or whatever they wanted to become. But freedom from active addictions is the only thing we promise you. You get to decide whatever you want to do after that. And I can tell you, it's been a hell of a ride for me. First of all, I would have never thought, back when I started, I was going to be in freaking Oregon at a church sharing a message of hope. So I just want to let you know that. So that's one change. Hey, listen. I am glad to be here. I'm glad to share my experience. I hope that you got a message of hope about what I said. I hope that you keep coming back, and I hope that you fulfill all the dreams. I got 5 minutes. I hope that you fulfill everything that you desire. I hope that everything that the fellowship offer you, all the things that you want before you got here, you achieve that. But if you're like us, many of us who sit in this room, if you put using in front of that, those things become probably impossible. The first step to here is to stop using. All the other things, we will help you. There's no rat race to working the steps. The steps is the guide to change. But the first thing you have to do when you get here is stay clean. Get around good people. Get a sponsor. Get a support group. Come to meetings. That's what they told me. That's what I've been doing. Going on September the 17th, I will be celebrating 33 years. A day at a time. It has not been easy, but what I've chose every day is not to pick up. And one of the things, I'm going to try to get this right, and this is going to be my last thing. I was reading something. I like reading and shit. But there was this thing. There was this thing that I was reading, and it was talking about what God gives us. And it was talking about when we are happy, God gives us memories. When things are happening that is bad, God gives us experiences. When things are worse in our lives, God gives us lessons. So, and then what it went on to say was, everything that happens to us is happening for us. Yes. It is not happening to you. All of us are experiencing that. And that is the beauty about Narcotics Anonymous. There's nothing that you are experiencing that no one else has. Good, bad, or worse. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.